So welcome everyone to Yoga for Earth Week. This event's a part of Bellevue College's Earth Week, where we're exploring topics around the theme, The Future is Now, which strives for a just and sustainable future for all. You can see our full schedule events by visiting the link that I will post in the chat box. My name's Amber Nicholson, for those that haven't met me, and I'm from the Bellevue College Office of Sustainability, and I will be moderating this event. So if there's anything you need, feel free to post it in the chat box. You are muted on joining, and we would like for you to stay on mute unless you're actively asking a question or responding to a prompt from Rachel. If you'd like to keep your camera on, it's up to you, but it does make for a more engaging session, but it is yoga, and so you may wish to keep it off, whatever works for you. The event's also being recorded to post on our sustainability webpage. Throughout the session, please treat everyone with respect and share your comments and questions in the chat box. As I said, we will open up for Q&A if needed at the end. And for the best Zoom experience, click the speaker view button in the top right corner of the screen, which will make sure the speaker is centered on your screen. And by that, I mean Rachel will be centered on your screen. Lastly, we pause to acknowledge that Bellevue College resides on the traditional and occupied land of the Coast Salish peoples, past, present, and future. That includes, but is not limited to, Snoqualmie, Suquamish, Duwamish, Nisqually, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot. We honor their connection to the region, pay respect to the Coast Salish elders past and present, and stand in solidarity through their struggles with continued systemic oppression. We commit to care for the land and water and center equity at the core of our unlearning. Now, let me take a quick moment to introduce Rachel. Rachel joined Bellevue College in 2005 and teaches in the Health and Physical Education department. She has taught in the fitness industry since 1993 and specializes in yoga since 2001. She is the lead instructor for the Bellevue College Yoga Teacher Training Certification Program, which is also a Yoga Alliance 200-hour registered yoga school. Thank you, Rachel, for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to getting some move on because I've been sitting all day.
Thanks, Amber. I had this whole speech, so you just took the words right out of my mouth. So thank you. Thanks for that introduction as well. I appreciate it. So let's do take a moment here before we begin, just to notice the space that you're in. You don't need to have a yoga mat. Obviously, if you have a yoga mat, use it. I like to have a blanket or a beach towel, something to sit on. A pillow works okay, but it can be a little bit kind of too soft and doesn't give any upliftness for the spine. So if you have any of that equipment around, great. And then just a clear space that's free of anything that would get in your way. If you have a wall, I like to use a wall nearby, but not necessary. It's just sometimes nice to have. So we're going to get started. Please take care of yourself and your body. You know your body best. I'm here on the screen, so I can't see everyone's bodies. So if you have anything you're concerned about, please be more on the gentle side of your practice today. Instead of pushing it. And today's supposed to be just about, unwinding, just like Amber said, is unwinding and noticing the space around us. If you have a window in the space that you're in, if you don't have a window, maybe just taking a moment to have appreciation for this land that we live on, the indigenous people that we have lived our lives on their land all these years, to have just a moment of gratitude for that, for also the earth that we live on, the space that we have taken over time. Can we take just a moment to honor that? So you might take your eyes, let them close, or look down towards the ground. Let your chin bow inward. And just take a few cleansing breaths in through the nose. And gently back out. Taking a breath in, honoring the space that you're in, this land, this earth. Long exhale out. Taking another breath in and taking a moment to honor something that you have that you're grateful for in your life right now. Take a moment to have gratitude for that. And then gently let your eyes open, any leg position that you want to take. So if you are more comfortable up on a chair, feel free to sit up on a chair if that's better for you. It's nice to have an upright spine, so I'm sitting on almost the edge of my blanket so that my knees can drop down off the edge a little bit, allowing the knees to be lower than the hips. And when we're taking the moments here in this seated position, we're going to be focusing on the breath. And you might think, well, I breathe all day long, Rachel, that doesn't matter. And we do all breathe all day long, but sometimes our breath can get really short and we take in less oxygen and we get rid of less waste. So we are finding the balance in our breath through this oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange. There's also nitric oxide involved in that for those of you interested. But I like to imagine, well, what is the body doing when we breathe? So take your hand into a fist, and we'll take that fist just underneath the chest line here, right where the V of the rib cage goes, right where underneath the heart. And this is a muscle. Your hand's going to be like a muscle. So when you take a breath in, this muscle presses down. It's called the diaphragm. It presses down towards the belly, and it feels like you're getting a belly breath. And then when you exhale out the breath, that muscle comes back underneath. So the inhale, it presses down, it works. And on the exhale, it relaxes back underneath the heart. And it's also giving the heart a little massage. Believe it or not, just a little massage for that heart as it takes an in-breath and out-breath. So when we take the breath into our lungs, this muscle presses down and expands the belly. But some of us breathe always up here, or a lot up here and less down here. So let's take one hand onto our belly, like around the navel area, and one hand up on the chest or the heart area. You can let your eyes close or be open on this. It's more of an internal experience, so feel free to let the eyes close. And just take a moment and notice as you're taking your breath in and out, do you notice where the breath goes? Does it mostly go towards the upper hand, or both the upper and the lower hand? Do you notice if your inhale is longer or shorter than the exhale? It doesn't matter, but just a noticing and observation. And as we bring attention to the breath, sometimes the breath will naturally slow down. So allow that breath to slow down on its own, but try not to force it, please. Keep that breath moving, but take your hands towards the sides of the waist or the ribs. So I go up a little higher above the waistline, lift the hands to the ribs. And you can just take a moment to feel the ribs expanding out wide. So when we take this breath, the lungs and the ribs are expanding in a three-dimensional space like a balloon. So you might imagine for a few moments with the hands there or resting on your lap, the breath being filling up a balloon with your breath. And then letting that breath slowly go out of the balloon. We'll do that one more time. And if your eyes are closed, blink them open. Feel free to stretch your legs, recross them if you want. Take your hands out in front, take your thumbs inside your hands, and give your thumbs a little hug with the hands, with the fingers. And then roll the wrists. You can relax the elbows, the shoulders, roll the wrists in a circle. You might even move side to side with that circle, going back and forth, making little figure eights. Or you might try to reverse the figure eight, go the opposite direction. And then let's keep moving. We're going to move through all of our joints. Sometimes our joints get a little bit stiff, especially if you've been at the computer. You can know that your hands can get, your wrists can get kind of stiff. Take the backs of the hands together so the fingers are pointing up, the palms are turned away, and then wiggle your fingers away from those hands. So you're just moving the fingers down towards the wrists. And then we'll go the opposite too. Take your fingers down and let the other hand assist. So you're stretching through the forearm, flexing the wrists. You might try that at a different angle. Nothing that feels painful, just stretching through the forearm, the lower part of the arm. Trying the other side if you haven't. And then wiggle out the hands. We're going to make these really wide hands. And I want you to remember these wide hands, meaning that there's lots of space between the fingers. We'll be using that wide hand position later on the ground. Okay, go ahead and roll through the elbows. So you just make a little windshield wiper side to side or circles. And then let's move through the shoulders. Roll the shoulders up, back, and around. So I find that the shoulder movement in the beginning feels really stiff and lots of crunchy crunch. But over time, as we move through our practice, you might find that things start to loosen up. You can go the other direction here too. Okay, drop your shoulders down. So when we do neck or head circles, we're doing half circles. So let your head go to one side and then just the chin down towards the chest and then over to the other side, not really going on that backward part, or if you do, just a very light amount. And then let the head stay to one side. So the head is heavy to one side, and then press the opposite arm away from the direction your head is angling down. And just see, does that help me get a different stretch? Maybe palm up, maybe I roll my thumb down. And then move your chin into a position that works well for that stretch to deepen on the side of the neck. Take some deep breaths. And gently lift the head back up. Move your chin side to side, left and right. And then go to the other side. Head hangs, reach the opposite arm away if that's helpful. And see if you can find a position where the chin goes towards your chest, the shoulder, so that you find a good angle on this side of the neck. And then once you have that, deepen the breath. And on your next exhale, lift the head up and roll up the shoulders one more time. So one more reminder about the breath is typically we breathe through the nose, not the mouth. And we breathe through the nose because the nostrils filter the air. All the tissue inside the nostrils are meant to filter the air and warm it. So if you can, inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose also, but inhaling is the main thing. If your nose is stuffed up or that doesn't feel right, as long as you're inhaling and exhaling, you're good. So we're going to bring our legs out in front. You're going to stretch your feet out in front. I think I have space here. I'm going to scooch back a little bit so you can see. But you bring your feet out in front like this, and then you roll your ankles around in a circle. I'll show you from this side in case it's hard to see there, but rolling in circles. You can go both directions. You can let the ankles go the same time, same direction, opposite. And then we're curling the toes. So with your toes, think of curling them in and stretching them out. It shouldn't hurt or get a cramp, but just enough that you feel something happening in the bottoms of the feet. And then just lean back a little bit, let your knees bend and circle. It looks like you're circling your knees, but you're actually circling your thigh bones around in a circle in that hip socket. And go both directions. So thinking of that sun, you know, or the moon, that circular shape, we have many joints that do move in a circle, and then we have other joints that don't move in a circle. So we'll move through those different ranges as we get going here. So we're going to come onto hands and knees now. And you take your blanket if you need it. You may not need a blanket. I need one because I've got this hardwood floor. It just feels a little bit better. And you'll set your knees on the blanket so that your knees are apart and they're underneath your hips. And then this is the wide hands that I talked about before. Make sure your fingers are wide and you're letting your fingertips point. Maybe your pointer finger point to the top of your mat. The shoulders are on top of the wrist, so make sure your hands are not underneath your chest. You walk the hands forward. If this bothers your wrist, by the way, you can also fold up your mat or get a blanket and let the heel of your hand come on that area and the fingers come off. And this just lifts up the wrist a little bit, gives a little more support. Begin here by rounding the spine. So you're going to round your spine, look towards the knees. And then lift the chest, lift the tail, and go the opposite direction. So our spine moves in this kind of wave-like motion, rounding up. Navel pulls in, that's your exhale out. And then lifting chest, lifting tail, taking a breath in through the nose. Exhaling, rounding. And you're starting to move in this wave-like position. Follow your breath. So each of our breaths have a slightly different pace. So when you're exhaling, round up, and when you're inhaling, lift chest, lift tail. And you might think of the water and the oceans, the wave-like motion. And then come back towards center. So we're going to come down onto our elbows, all the way down onto the ground. We'll move the blanket. You can keep the blanket if you want, super optional. And we'll bring the elbows forward of our shoulders. This is called Sphinx Pose. And I just want to caution you that it can put a little bit of discomfort on some people's backs. So if that's happening for you, move the elbows more forward. Otherwise, move your elbows more underneath your shoulders. And instead of letting the shoulders come up, we're going to press your shoulders down towards your hips. Lift the chest like you're trying to smile your collarbones, which are the space between the shoulders. Smile those collarbones up, getting a long stretch from your belly all the way up underneath the chin. Take a few breaths here, really pressing strongly through the tops of the feet there. And then lower down and make your way into crocodile. So you let your elbows go wide, you let your head rest on the back of your hands. So you let your head rest. I can't let my head rest because you can't hear me, but just let your head rest on the backs of the hands. Let the elbows go wide and just take a few moments there. Let your heels roll out, let your legs relax. Take a few deep breaths. One more big breath here. And then take your hands close to your shoulders. So this one, you're letting your elbows wing back. Your hands are close to your shoulders. The fingers are pointing forward. And you're lifting up into a back bend. And this is called Cobra. So think of the tail of your feet as being the end of a snake tail, and then lifting up the chest, maybe moving side to side with your chest. I like to do a little dancing cobra, just rolling the shoulders back. It should feel good, just like you're unwinding things. If it doesn't, don't go up quite as high. And then in your next round, use your strength of your arms in your core and press all the way up to hands and knees again. So we're going to come into child's pose, and you can always come to child's pose if you need a rest. The knees are a little bit apart, the feet are together, so you're making like this V shape. Feet together, knees apart, and then the chest comes down towards, or the belly comes down towards the thighs. You can let your arms come out, you can let your head rest down. It should feel restful. If it doesn't feel good in the knees, or sometimes it's the ankles that doesn't feel so great here, you could come up onto your arms a little bit and be in kind of a half child's pose here. Take 2 or 3 more breaths, thinking of the breath moving towards the back side of the body, stretching through the wings of your back or the lower back. You might think of that wave-like motion that you made in your spine, that wave-like motion now of your breath. So in yoga, the breath is not just what we breathe in, it's also considered the life force. So it's what runs through everything. You can think of it like the sap in the trees, the waves in the ocean. That's called prana. On your next breath, make your way up onto hands and knees. I'm going to show down dog, but I want to show you 2 options for down dog. So the main thing to think about with down dog is that your spine is at an angle and you're just trying to get the spine long. So you can walk your hands forward, let your hips drag back so that your knees are underneath your hips, and it feels as if you're trying to pull your hips back. That's one option. If you're lifting your knees up, I walk my feet a little closer towards my hands. I keep the knees bent, and I think of the spine being long just like this. Versus being just kind of on the arms here, this can be really uncomfortable for a lot of us. So think of getting your hips to pull away from your hands. So either knees down or knees up, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths there. If it feels like it's too much intensity in the arms, come down onto your knees, please. And we're just going to walk out of this into a forward bend. So you walk your hands and feet closer together, bring your elbows up onto your thighs, let your knees bend, and you can stay in this position where your knees are bent so that your back is supported. If it feels okay to let the arms go and let the hands come to your elbows, bring the hands down and let the elbows bend here. Let your head and neck relax. This is a good time to not be looking at the screen, just let your head and neck relax. Keep your knees bent so your back is supported. So yoga is not just about flexibility, it's also about being strong. So when we come out of this, I want you to feel your legs on the outside of the hips, the glute muscles engaging, using those muscles. Engage the abdominal muscles here in the belly, and then come all the way up. Okay, so we made it to standing, that's good. So I'm going to name a lot of the postures today, and I want you really to think, because we are in this space of Earth Week, really noticing how the postures feel and the way that they're named. The yogis had a really great tradition of naming what they saw in the world. And so that's why you hear a lot about animals and other parts of the earth that are named in our yoga postures. So this first one is called mountain. So your feet are underneath your hips. You do not need to let your big toes touch. I think of this as like if I'm just walking around, I have my feet a little bit apart. So I want my feet to be about as wide as my sit bones where I sit on. And then the arms are opening up and we're a little more active, right? So instead of just kind of letting the shoulders roll forward and hang, we'll see if we can draw open the chest, feel even through the ball of the foot and the heel. So you might think of your feet as having, like you have roller skates and you're making sure you're even on both sides, front and back of those roller skates. And then just shift a little bit front and back and see what would it be like if this mountain was moving a little bit front to side, side to front. And then find that place where you're right in between. This is equal standing, samastiti, meaning you're equally standing in the right foot and the left foot as much as you're able to. And then from there, without locking the knees, so the knees have a little slight bend to them, think of elongating the spine all the way up. Let's bring the arms up with us. Get really tall. Move the head side to side. If that doesn't feel like you can, take the arms a little wider instead. And then from here, let's really imagine ourselves as a mountain, pressing down into the feet, elongating through the spine, reaching the crown of the head to the sky. Take 1 or 2 more breaths here. Feeling the strength and stability of this mountain. This will be our base pose. We'll come back to this posture several times today. Let the arms come down, and we're going to start to move now with the breath. So the way this works is the arms are going to move back and forth, but it's really that the arms are following the breath. So I want you to really tap in for a moment, as we did in the beginning with that breath, that in breath and out breath. So maybe it changes a bit when we're standing. But notice the in breath and notice your out breath. And then on your next in breath, when you take the breath into the nostrils there, reach the arms up. And when you take the out breath, bring the hands down the middle. And you're continuing with that 2 or 3 more times. Inhaling when the arms are going out wide. Exhaling out when the arms come down. So you're really letting your breath be the leader and your hands, your arms follow the rhythm of the breath. When you get to your last one, just let the arms come back down and we'll meet in mountain posture. Perfect, that's good. Take 1 or 2 more breaths. So I like to get a little bigger in the legs. You may not know that about me, but some of you might. So when we move into some of these postures, we'll add some strengthening, but then I promise we will stretch things out later. So I'm just going to show you from the side view. Your feet are apart just like you had before. Imagine sitting back into a chair. So you're not sitting forward into a chair, so your knees are not going past the toes. You're taking your hips back, and then we're going to take our hands onto our thighs. And the hands on the thighs are going to remind us that we don't want to just be kind of hanging in the back on this. We want to be engaging your abdominal muscles. This band right around the middle of below the belly button, it goes all the way around to the transverse abdominis. So we're going to press our hands into the thighs. It seems odd. But press your hands into the thighs, and as you do that strongly, scoop your belly up, that low belly. Think of pulling that in and tightening up that rubber band. Once you feel like, yep, I feel my abdominal muscles from all sides are hugging in, I can still breathe in my chest, but I feel some strength in my core. Then maybe I bring my hands up. I'm still in chair pose, hips are back. And now we're going to start to move with this chair, reaching the arms up, straighten the legs. You're in mountain pose. Exhale, bend the knees, bring the hands towards your heart center. Low belly pulls in. And let's continue with that 4 or 5 more times. Inhaling to come up and exhaling to come down. Your weight's towards the heel side of your feet more so than your toes when you're sitting back. Last time on this moving chair. Good, and then hold the chair posture here. You can keep the arms here. If you want to bring the arms up, do that. That can feel a little bit stronger for some of you. You might want that or you might not. Keep scooping the belly in. Keep breathing in and breathing out. 1 more breath. And then straighten the legs, reach up. Exhale, arms come down back by your side. So this is a side bend that we're going into next. And sometimes the side bending is just, people think it's just side bending, but it's also called half moon. So consider that as you come into this. Hand onto your hip. So take your left hand onto your hip, your right arm comes up, and then lean towards the side. So you're leaning towards the side that your hand's on. You can bend that left knee if you like, and see if that gives you just a little bit more of the stretch, half moon, like you're making a little half moon shape in your body. We'll be doing another one of these later on the ground. To come out of this, engage those waist muscles, so you're engaging the muscle to come out. Let's do that 2 more times to that side. Leaning to the side, take a stretch. Engaging, coming back up, 1 more. And then come all the way up, take your hand onto your hip, reach the other arm up, lean to the side, bend the knee a little bit if that's helpful. Stay for a few breaths, and you might notice chest goes down or chest goes up. How does that affect that side? And then let's move in and out of that twice more. So moving over to one side, pausing there, coming back up. And all the way back out. All right, let's kind of relax that out. So we're gonna do these arm circles, and I'm just gonna show you, if you have like a little strap or something, you could use it. Like a towel or something, you could use a towel between the arms. You don't need to, I'm gonna show this without this, but if you have it, it can feel a little bit more like you can get a stretch there. Otherwise, you can imagine something being held between your hands and you're just moving the arms open and close. Widening the chest, and then letting the shoulders roll in. We'll do 2 or 3 more of those. And then your last one, bring the hands behind you like you have a ball that you're holding between your hands. So the palms are not touching, you're just imagining your ball is there. That opens up the chest space, but it squeezes the shoulder blades together. If it's available for you to hold on and interlace the fingers, do that. You could also use that strap or whatever you had before, you might have that between your hands. If nothing like that with the hands works, you can take hands to elbows. But something that helps keep open that chest space. So you choose how you're doing that with your hands. Take a few moments as if you're trying to breathe more into the upper part of your chest. Great, and then release that out, shake it on out. So we're going to move down into the legs a little bit more, working towards for Warrior 1, which is a kind of a good solid posture to come into. So your feet are a little bit as wide as you did for Mountain Pose, so as wide as your sit bones. You're going to step your right leg back behind, and when you're stepping your right leg back behind, I'm going to show you from the side in just a moment, let your toes, instead of letting your toes point to the side, let your back toes point a little bit more towards the front, to where your other foot is pointing. So your shoulders and your hips feel like they're moving forward. I'm going to show you from the side view, but you stay right where you are, okay? So you're letting your front knee bend, your other foot's back, and then reach your arms up, take a breath in, and imagine yourself as a warrior. Maybe it's a warrior of climate change, a warrior of our environment, a warrior of Indigenous people everywhere. What is it that you're a warrior of today? Keep pressing through your back heel, lift your chest. You're really feeling some length and openness here. Yeah. Take 2 or 3 more breaths here. In breath, and out breath. Excellent. Now bring your hands behind. Remember that interlacing we did before. You might interlace again, or you might take your hands to your elbows. Lift your chest and stay here. Now, if this is a comfortable place to stay, it's pretty comfortable for me, then you stay here opening up that heart space in that chest. If you want something deeper, and I don't know if you do, you may not need that, you let your chest come down towards the thighs and reach the arms up. If you're doing that, just know that it takes a little bit more balance and it may not be necessary. You may find that you just come back up and stay with that. So let you choose which of those you like. The second version with the chest down is called Humble Warrior. Bowing inward on that warrior. If you're in that low position, make your way up. Release the arms. Keep that front leg bent. We've already done this. Just step forward into chair pose. So you're in chair pose again, hands towards heart. Take a breath in. And then straighten the legs, reach all the way up. Inhale, make a mountain. Exhale, hands come down. So let's go to that second side for the warrior. Your step back, your other leg, for most of you, that'll be your left leg, your right leg stays forward. A reminder, shoulders and hips are mostly pointing forward, and that back foot is not angled back. It's the toes are angled a little bit more forward, like 45 degrees or so. And that just keeps our back from twisting in this posture. Then arms come up. Lengthen your chest, get wide through the front of the body. And then from here, take the hands behind, lift the chest. And if you're interlacing the fingers, maybe take the opposite interlace. If you're taking your hands onto your elbows, take the opposite hand onto the elbow. Lift the heart space, stay here or bow forward. So again, you'll choose if you're going to bow forward, if that's appropriate, or if it's better to stay upright. Wherever you are, continue to let your breath move through you. Just like the wind outside that is a soft breeze, let your breath be that breeze. And then release the arms, come all the way up, inhale. Hands towards your heart center, step forward to chair posture. Sink your hips back, even your weight in your feet. Take one more breath here. And then straighten your legs, let your arms come down by your side. So we're going to come into a balanced posture before we take some wider positions. When we're in balance, I can give you a couple of cues. The two main things are that you want the surface area to be wide, so that's your foot. So when we think of our foot, instead of crunching up your toes, think of letting your feet be as wide as you can, like you're trying to melt your foot down. And then the other part is where your eyes go. Now, we're on Zoom, so you might look at me in the beginning, but I'd like you to find something in your room right now or in your space that you know you can look at for a frame of reference. So shift your weight into your right leg, lift your left heel up. And let this thigh bone move in and out. So it's like a little door opening and closing. And then let the leg go to the side only as far as it needs to, that your hips can still point forward. So don't turn your hips towards this leg. For most of us, that leg is like at a 45-degree angle, maybe less even. But if it can move to the side and you can still keep your hips forward, do that. And then bring this foot closer up to your ankle. Some of you will take the foot up onto your shin. If you're bringing the foot above the knee, just avoid pressing the heel on the knee. The heel is above the knee. So wherever you're pressing that foot into, press the standing leg back into it. You're creating a trunk. Make sure your eyes are off at the screen now. Keep pressing into that bottom foot like you're a tree rooting its roots deep down 4 feet into the earth. And then zipping up the inner thighs, this middle of the body, like you're trying to reach your heart, your middle body towards the sky. You can stay here. If you need to tap out with your foot to get your balance, do that. If you want more from this, extend your arms, your branches of this tree, and then keep deepening your breath. Your breath becomes that sap, so keep letting it flow through. It's not important if you're staying all the way balanced the whole time. You're always oscillating and finding that middle point. So feel free to tap out if you need to. If you're complete with that, bring the hands down if they were up, set the foot to the floor, wiggle out the feet. And sometimes that foot gets a little bit uncomfortable. That gets better the more your balance improves and the more you start to stack the bones of your body for your tree. So again, spread the foot out so that the ball of the foot and the heel's down. You don't feel like you're leaning to one side too much. You're already starting out with a good balance. Tip up your right toe on the ground and then let your thigh bone move in and out. Just noticing what is that range of motion in that hip today. Keep your hips pointing forward, your shoulders pointing forward as you find a placement for the foot. Is it on the ground? Is it on the shin? Is it above the knee? Then root down on your standing leg 4 feet into the earth. Make your way into that trunk by pressing your foot into your leg into your foot. Maybe the hands rest at your heart. Keep your eyes on something that's not moving. And maybe begin to bring the arms up skyward. Making your way with these branches as if your branches have leaves on the fingertips. You might even wiggle those fingertips. Getting all of those nutrients from the sun. Keep rooting down, keep reaching up. Couple more breaths here. And then when you're complete, you can start to bring the hands down, set the foot to the floor, and walk it out. Nice. So I'm going to face the long edge of my mat, so however you feel comfortable in your space to go wide. I'm going to let our feet go wide in this direction. You can let your toes keep pointing towards, for me to be the long edge, but I'm just pointing them toward each other versus out. We'll just keep them here for a few moments. So let your knees bend a little bit so you're not locking the knees, yeah. And then reach the arms up. This is called star pose. So I like to really think of my fingers as being like those twinkling stars and let the fingers move a little bit. Really being wide, like you're trying to take up as much space as possible. Like really trying to take up as much space as you can with your arms and your legs. Think of reaching the crown of the head up towards the sky. Take another breath in and out. And then we're going to let our toes angle out now. So the toes are angling towards the corners of your mat, like you're making a little plie position. So the knees and the toes go in the same direction. I'm going to show you from the side view so you can see this. What I'm not doing is going back into a chair position. I'm imagining a wall right behind me. And I'm just watching that my knees don't go past the toes. So keep your knees over your ankles. This is called goddess posture. So you might think for a moment of Mother Nature, that goddess that helps protect us. It keeps the environment strong and stable. Taking a few breaths here. And then let's stretch with that, with our breath now coming into star, reaching up. On your exhalation, your out breath, bend the knees, bend the elbows, goddess. And we'll keep going with that a few more times. Inhaling, stretching long, exhaling, bending elbows. Okay, one more. And then release down. So any leg position you want, either toes angled out or toes in. We're taking just the arms. Take your right arm underneath, your left arm on top. Right arm under, left arm on top. Give yourself a hug. So you're just taking your hands towards the side and we're stretching out the shoulder blades. And then from here, you can keep the hands here if that's okay. If you want more, you bring the hands in front of the face. You might take the fingers toward each other, or you might take the palms of the hands toward each other. Not all of our shoulders will do this. So if you know your shoulders are not going to do that, you keep your hands at your shoulders. But for everyone, you're keeping your elbows forward, your shoulders down, and creating some space so that you can breathe through the chest. These are eagle legs. Eagle arms. Eagle arms. Yeah. Let's spread the wings of this eagle. So open up wide. Excellent. And switch sides. Left arm under, right arm on top. Whatever arm you haven't done on top, do the second side. Hands to shoulders, getting space behind the shoulder blades. If you want to wrap the hands, back of the hands or palms might come together. This may not be available for some of us, so keep the hands at the shoulders instead. And then think of pressing your elbows away, rolling your shoulders down. So there's space between your shoulder blades, but also space for you to breathe. Think of breathing through the back of the heart. And then when you're ready, spread the wings, open up, and exhale, lower that down. Let's walk the feet in. So let's come into a sun salutation. We'll go through this like 1.5 times. I'll be standing, and then I'll come down low, and then I'll come back up. So if it helps to have your screen just in one place that you can see for both being standing and on the ground, that would be helpful right now. And I do this with kids yoga, and I know you might think it's silly, but it actually is a great way to get connected to our environment. So the first part is just bringing the arms up, inhaling, and then exhaling, coming down, and we'll repeat that a few times. What I'm going to suggest, though, is that you're not looking at the screen for that. We're just doing the same thing a few times, so you don't need to look at the screen. It'll help your neck be long. And as we're moving like this, we're going to be thinking about, well, what's in this environment? What's in the sky that I'd like to honor for the few moments that we're working with this? So start in mountain pose. Reach your arms up, take a breath in, and we say, hello, sun. Hello, sun. Down to the earth. Hello, earth. Hello, earth. Inhaling, coming up. Hello, stars and moon. Hello, earth. So you keep doing whatever you'd like with this. What are you honoring here? Hello, galaxies and planets and Saturn and Mars. Hello, ground and earth and soil and flowers and weeds. Try one more. And then come all the way back down into that forward bend. We'll step your feet back, come into high push-up plank. So your plank position we haven't been in. If you would rather have your knees down, have your knees down, but keep firm in the belly here. And then if your knees are not down, lower your knees down. At the same time, lower your thighs and your chest to the ground. Elbows reach back. Untuck the toes. Here's that cobra we did earlier. Roll up. And then big press back into kneeling dog. Or downward facing dog, walking your footprint forward a little bit. Take a deep breath in. Step or hop to your hands. Inhale, come up. Exhale, fold. And let's do this one more time, just a half round here. Inhaling, coming up. Hello, sun. Hello, earth. Step back into plank. High push-up, strong. Lower down the knees if they're not. Lower all the way down. Cobra. And then make a pillow for your head. Elbows go wide, crocodile. So just take a few moments resting on your belly, letting the forehead rest on the backs of the hands. And when you're ready, go ahead and roll over onto your back. Bring your knees towards your chest. So find a comfortable place to view the screen. Bring the knees towards your chest and take a few moments to rock left and right. I like to do this just to get a little massage in the back. So I'll make little circles on the ceiling with my knees as I get a little weight distribution towards the outer hip or the tail. You might explore which part of your back needs a little weighted massage here. And then come back towards the center. Set your feet down to the ground. So I'm not sure if you remember, but in my space here, I have this big silver tree that's hanging on the wall. And this tree, we have different little tags on them, and each tag has something that we're grateful for. So take a moment here, and I suggest doing that for yourself. What is something, again, that you're thankful or grateful for in this moment? And whenever we feel filled with an obstacle or having some difficulty, and when we bring ourselves to something that we're grateful for, this can help dissipate some of those obstacles. Let your eyes open if they were closed. We're coming into bridge pose. You might want to watch for the first round because I don't want your head turning to the side when your hips are up. So you're just letting your feet be as wide as your knees as wide as your hips. You're lifting up the hips. It doesn't have to be a high lift, but I'm just making a bridge, squeezing the rear and the glutes towards the knees, and then lowering back down. And we're going to use the arms here. If you want, you can reach your arms back when your hips are down, and then reach your hands down by your side when your hips are up. So just a little movement here with the hips, maybe adding in the arms, very optional. Keep looking towards the ceiling or the sky here so that we're not cranking our neck at all in this position. Keep the hips lifted on this next one and pause for a moment. And then gently lower all the way down. So if you recall, we were making that half moon position. We're going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to show you, it's going to be hard to see from the angle that we're at, but I'm going to make the best of it. You're going to walk your legs and your arms in one direction. I'm going to stand up and show you this, but I don't want you to stand up. I want you to stay on the ground, and what you're doing on the ground is taking your hands behind you and you're making this little shape of your body so that you're getting that half moon shape on the ground. What you're not going to do is lift your bum off the ground. So this is not a twist. We are not rotating the spine in any way. We're just making a half moon shape. This is often called banana asana, like a banana pose. So if that helps you instead, do that. I let my head rest into my hands, but some people like to stretch the arms back. It's whatever's comfortable. If you like to cross an ankle, feel free to do that. Make sure that your bum is staying on the ground that we're not twisting here. And then when you find a spot to stay with, see if you can breathe through that whole side body, as if you could only breathe through that side of the body at all. Come back towards the center, switch sides. So walk your upper body and your lower body in the same direction, making that crescent moon shape or that banana shape in your body. Feel free to cross an ankle if that feels best. And then find a deepening around your breath. Full breath in, big breath out. Okay, wiggle back towards the center. Bring those knees into the chest and take a moment there. So I'm going to show you this next posture, and you might find that you want to use a wall like I'm going to show, but you don't need to have a wall, or if you have a bed or a couch, sometimes that works. But this can be done without that. Take your leg up, it doesn't matter which leg, flex the ankle, and then cross that ankle over your other thigh. So you're making a figure 4 shape in your legs. There's a space between the inner knees there. So you can stay here if that feels like a good stretch for this outer hip. If you have a wall, you set your foot up on the wall and you wiggle your hips closer to get a deeper stretch. If you don't have a wall, you grab hold of that leg by taking the hand through the legs and then grabbing hold of the outside of the leg. So I'm going to say that again because I can't see all of you in place, but you take your hand through the leg and then grab hold of the other side. So both hands are holding onto one leg. And then you can choose if you want to lean side to side. If you have the wall, you don't need to use the arms, you can just use the wall. And then find a place where you can stay. So part of our nervous system is letting our body really relax. And if we relax more, then the muscles know to relax as well. They don't have to stay on. So if you're wanting some flexibility, which is where we're headed for this one today, see if you can calm through your breath. Maybe take some longer exhales out, bringing some calmness to your body. And maybe that flexibility will come in a little easier when we're not so tied up into our mind stuff, or our breath is tight. See if we can just relax all of that out. Whenever you're ready, you can switch to the second side. If this side needs a little bit more time, though, feel free to stay. Reminder that you're flexing the ankle. That keeps the knee safe, and then you're crossing over so that your foot's up on the wall, or you're grabbing hold of that bottom leg by going through the inner legs. Yeah. And then again, you might rock a little bit side to side until you find that good spot to stay on. And once you find a good spot, then stay with that. Take some deeper breaths. All right, now let's go and let the feet come down. Let the feet come down to the ground. I'm going to show you from this direction. You let your arms go out wide like a goalpost. You can bend the elbows or let them be straight. And then let your knees go over to one side for a very gentle twist. Make sure your feet are on the ground, at least 1 foot, so that we're not straining the back. Let the chest move towards the ceiling or away from the knees to get a deeper stretch here. And then bring your knees back up, switch to that second side, letting your knees go over to the second side, keeping at least 1 foot on the ground. That just helps so that we're not overloading the back. And then once you find a place to stay, take a few moments to settle in, deepen into the chest and the belly. You can take a big chest and belly breath here. Come back towards the center. And then any lying down position that you'd like to take, maybe let your legs go straight, maybe let your thighs roll in. But just take a few moments on your back here, let your eyes close and soften. You can think of feathering up your nest here, getting a really comfortable place to rest. You can cover your eyes with something. And as you're settling, I'll read something that I thought was very not helpful, but very supportive of where we are right now in terms of coming out of this kind of dark part of the pandemic world into the springtime. This is by Eliza Blue, and she says the following: in the meantime, during this pandemic or other troubles, in the meantime, the prairie grows greener. The prairie still grows, it grows greener. The cows still shuffle slowly across it. They seek the slim blades of new grass. Spring is still the season of rebirth, a reminder that the days of darkness and deep cold are part of the wheel, not the end of the line. In the meantime, the prairie grows greener. The cows shuffle slowly across it, seeking the calm blades of new grass. Spring is still the season of rebirth, a reminder that the days of darkness and deep cold are part of the wheel, not the end of the line. And if you'd like to rest a little longer, feel free to rest a little longer. If you'd like to come up though, feel free to roll your way up to seated. If you'd like to take the Lotus Mudra with me, this is a hand positioning. You take your thumb and pinky fingers together and then you seal up the bottom. And this is creating a lotus flower. We let it rest at the heart center. The other fingers are springing forth like the petals of this lotus. This lotus flower grows in the mud, and then as it comes towards the surface of the lake, it opens up into these beautiful white flowers without any mud on it or any mud on the petals. Take a breath in here. Let your chin bow towards your fingers. When we say the word namaste, nama means to bow, so bow to something that's important to you today. Bowing to the earth, the sky, all that keeps us living and growing. Namaste. Thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks, Amber, for hosting.
Thank you, Rachel. That was wonderful. I really appreciate all the connections to nature into Earth Week. That was wonderful. I hope everyone had a great opportunity to get their bodies moving and feel ready for the rest of your day. Yeah, just a quick reminder to everyone that to check out the rest of our events by the link in the chat. Thanks again, Rachel. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be around for a moment.
Yeah, feel free to ask any by posting in the chat or just asking out loud.
Thanks, Janaya.